Hello and welcome to On the Safe Side, a monthly podcast hosted by the editors of Safety and Health magazine, the official magazine of the National Safety Council. This is Barry Bottino, associate editor at Safety and Health, and with me, as always, are my fellow associate editors, Alan Ferguson and Kevin Drewley. Hello, guys.
Hello, Barry.
Hey there, Barry.
We're so thankful that you've joined us for our July 2026 episode, which is number 77 in our history. This month's podcast is sponsored by Novara. We know that many of you have had a unique journey into the safety profession, and we'd like to learn all about it for our My Story feature in the magazine. You can submit a personal story by emailing us at safehealth@nsc.org or encourage a safety colleague to share their story. In this month's episode, we'll explore news from the July issue of Safety and Health. We'll also speak with Jay Vietas, the Senior Director of Research at the National Safety Council, about the growing role of artificial intelligence in safety. Finally, we'll share more important news you may have missed in our In Case You Missed It segment. Is everybody ready? Away we go.
The July issue of Safety and Health includes a featured story from yours truly on recent federal and state actions on heat-related injury and illness prevention. The story is a follow-up on news the magazine provided 3 years ago, and at that time, 5 states, California, Colorado, Minnesota, Oregon, and Washington, had some form of heat-related standard in effect. Since then, Maryland and Nevada have finalized heat regulations for indoor and outdoor workers. And Virginia is on track to become one of the next states after enacting a law in April that requires the Commonwealth Safety and Health Codes Board to develop a heat regulation no later than May 1st, 2028. The story notes that OSHA issued a revised national emphasis program also in April. That NEP is set to run until 2031. The feature also includes a way to stay up to date on the latest federal and state level efforts through a National Resources Defense Council website. Barry has a feature on housekeeping, or the simplest way to keep everybody safe, one source says. Specifically, Barry outlines the do's and don'ts when it comes to ensuring workplaces are neat and tidy. He also provides a list of 11 tips for effective workplace housekeeping. Barry also writes about workplace safety fairs, or interactive, community-focused events designed to educate people on injury prevention, emergency preparedness, and health. In the story, Barry provides an overview of expert recommendations on how to start or grow a safety fair, including ways to make the event fun and welcoming. Safety fairs are also an opportunity to deliver training as well as engagement. On top of all this, the July issue features all the news you need, information about new products, and much more, which you can find in print or at safetyandhealthmagazine.com.
This month's episode is brought to you by Novara. Managing safety and compliance across a complex organization is hard enough. Too many disconnected tools, too much time reacting, and not enough time preventing. Novara gives organizations a single platform to manage EHS and compliance, with artificial intelligence-driven capabilities designed to help you anticipate risk before an incident occurs. More than 15,000 companies in industries such as energy, manufacturing, and construction already trust Novara to keep their programs connected and compliant. Find out what that looks like for your organization at novara.com. That's Novara.com.
For this month's 5 Questions With segment, we're happy to welcome Jay Vietas, who serves as Senior Director of Research at the National Safety Council. We've had the privilege of calling Jay a cohort for the past year plus, and we're eager to tap into his current and previous experience for our discussion covering artificial intelligence and occupational safety. Jay was part of a recent NSC and Wolters Kluwer Enablon study on the use of AI in safety, and previously was Chief of the Emerging Technologies Branch at NIOSH. Jay, we thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here today with you to discuss this important topic.
With that and getting things going, we always are interested in sharing takeaways for workers and employers. So what should organizations who are beginning to integrate safety with AI know as they get started?
Yeah, I'll start by saying that AI is a tool. It's really a category of tool. And like any tool, you have to understand how and where to use it, because it can be quite helpful when used appropriately. It can also unfortunately cause harm or unexpected results too. To get started with safety, I think it's critical to define the problem you're trying to solve. With this in mind, you can figure out what type of AI tool you can use. In fact, the NSC's Work to Zero team has developed a product called the Safety Innovation Journey, which can help users think through the steps of addressing an EHS problem through the use of a particular safety technology. I'd also recommend starting small. Develop a process for incorporating AI into your organizational problem-solving framework. You'll likely learn quite a bit about yourself, your team, and your organization, as well as the technology itself. And finally, always be skeptical of the results provided by AI and be sure to validate the outputs from these tools.
Jay, shifting gears to the study with Wolters Kluwer and Ablon, findings showed that the leading perceived benefits of AI in safety related to incident prediction or prevention, as well as improved reporting and compliance. Why do you feel this was the case, and which other perceived benefits might be on the rise as well?
Yeah, that's a good question, Barry. The perception that AI will improve incident prediction or prevention suggests that safety professionals see how these tools may be able to help us use the wealth of data we've collected about our workplaces to better understand and prioritize evaluation and the controls of operations more effectively. If used correctly, this will be a game changer. Instead of reacting to safety incidents, we'll use these tools to inform a proactive stance towards safety management. The benefit of improved reporting and compliance suggests a better handle on our data through the use of AI tools. In many instances, the data regarding compliance exists within our organizations already, but oftentimes it's siloed, limiting our visibility to the status of processes, training, controls, and more. So these tools will help us bring together all this information to assist with understanding and subsequently decision-making. And this is ultimately the benefit which I see on the rise as these tools become integrated into our workplaces, the ability to elevate our decision-making both in time and in space.
Jay, the study also cited industry worries that over-reliance on AI is a key risk. How can organizations still use and value human judgment even as research demonstrates AI's positive impacts?
Yeah, in some ways, I was really pleased to see these results because I share the concern that over-reliance on AI could result in undesirable outcomes in our workplaces. To your question, I think it's both about mindset and how we build the use of these tools into our organizational processes. First, our mindset. As I mentioned before, AI is a tool that can be quite helpful, but it requires oversight and involvement from humans. Humans should be accountable for the use of these processes and involved in critical decisions associated with the use of these tools. Furthermore, many of the algorithms are informed through the collection of additional data, and so oversight may require periodic evaluation to ensure the outcomes of interest. And with this process in mind, I think it's critical to build the procedural infrastructure to ensure human judgment and decision-making is appropriately included. As safety professionals, this includes application of our knowledge about work processes, the risk assessments we have performed, as well as the controls applied, and include this knowledge in the application of our AI tools.
Jay, where do you ultimately see the relationship between safety and AI going?
Yeah, this is both an easy and a difficult question to answer. The easy part is to say that AI will be infused into almost all aspects of safety. In fact, it's probably going to be fused into almost all aspects of our daily living. But for safety, it will help deliver tools to improve our ability to identify and prevent hazards in our workplaces. It'll help us forecast where and when additional resources are needed to address safety concerns. It will continue to assist us with communicating with one another, such as creating products, like translating products, comparing products, and these products could be written, or auditory, or visual. The difficult part to this question or answering it is the how and when. Development of these tools has occurred quite quickly, and assimilation into the daily activities of work have dramatically changed in such a short period of time. With that said, I expect the pace of change to increase. More products will become available to improve safety outcomes, and the challenge we'll have is keeping up with what is happening within our EHS teams and within our workplaces. And a final thought, the need for the skills and acumen of safety professionals will continue to persist, and the requirement to connect human to human with frontline workers, with supervisors, with engineers, both computer and civil, as well as those in the C-suite, will become more important. Understanding work processes, potential hazards, particularly emerging hazards, will be critical for safety success. So as the use of AI increases on our teams and in our workplaces, the need for soft skills will become more important, not less.
Jay, as we wrap up with you, what can you share about future projects and focus areas for NSC's research into the use of AI in safety?
Our primary focus is to help companies operationalize AI by providing a variety of resources. This includes reports, white papers, and webinars, as well as case studies. We aim to describe what works and also help share lessons learned when these tools perform differently than we expect. Well, this is not new. NSC Research has been participating in the AI conversation for quite a while and developed many resources for safety professionals to consume. These efforts are built into our Work to Zero program, our Musculoskeletal Disorder or MSD Solutions Lab, as well as on our roadway safety side. And for this group, that means our fleet management program. We're in the process of bringing all these resources together in one central location on our website. This will help improve access to these resources and be a great place for safety professionals to start when they're looking for information about addressing particular safety challenges. This will also link to our communities page, where safety professionals can engage with NSC experts on these subjects or with other safety professionals who have either cracked the code or are facing the same situations as they are. The research team will continue to make connections to AI tools that help enable safety programs. An example of this is through our development of the Safe Work Plan tool. As many of your listeners know, there's been a pivot within the safety community to implement SIF, or Serious Incident and Fatality Management Programs. The Safe Work Plan tool was built with NSC's SIF model in mind. Users of this tool provide a photo and then describe the tasks, site conditions, and crew details in a few words, and then the AI tool provides a risk score as well as a list of potential hazards and corresponding safeguards. Most importantly, this tool enables engagement with those most at risk, which is incredibly important for reducing SIF risk in the workplace. To put a fine point on this entire conversation, while I continue to have healthy skepticism for any particular AI tool, I continue to remain positive on how AI will provide the opportunity to improve safety in our workplaces. The key will be to understand where and how these tools can be used to augment human performance and decision-making in order to achieve desirable outcomes.
Well, thank you so much, Jay, for sharing your insights and expertise with our audience. No, this is a very dynamic topic, as you say, and we appreciate you joining us this month.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
With all the hubbub around the USA's 250th birthday and the World Cup, you'd be forgiven if you missed some of the news from around the safety and health world. That's why we're here with In Case You Missed It. So I'll get us started. The House Appropriations Committee released its funding bill text that covers OSHA, the Mine Safety and Health Administration, and NIOSH. Some of the details as of the time of this recording are a proposed 8% budget cut for OSHA in fiscal year 2027, which starts October 1st, or around $52.4 million. That would take OSHA from a roughly $629 million budget in FY 2026 to $577 million if the law is ultimately enacted. As of this recording as well, the Labor HHS Education and Related Agencies Subcommittee has not released its report that provides more details, and that's namely, will it propose to cut the Susan Harwood Training Grant Program $12 million price tag as the administration wants? For NIOSH, the subcommittee is proposing a $311 million budget, or a 15% cut from FY 2026, but that $311 million is exponentially higher than the roughly $92 million the administration wanted for the agency. Department of Health and Human Services wanted to combine parts of NIOSH with other agencies as part of something called the National Center for Chemicals and Toxins. So the department also want to eliminate the National Occupational Research Agenda, or NORA, among other cuts. I don't know that those plans will happen with this $311 million budget proposal. I also think that the budget numbers for NIOSH and other agencies will be higher in the forthcoming Senate bill, and ultimately we'll likely see some kind of flat funding from FY 2026, or maybe smaller cuts percentage-wise. Barry, what about you?
Well, Alan, we know that workers want to stay safe on the job. We know that, and our audience knows that. What do they also want? A new survey from the National Alliance on Mental Illness says that workers want more mental health support. And there's strong demand for mental health related training and resources, according to this survey, which is NAMI's third annual Stigma Free Workplace Mental Health Survey. And although there is a strong demand for workers for more mental health related training and resources, these same employees say less than a third receive any of that at work, according to the study. Only 54% of workers say they believe their employer prioritizes their mental health. And also, as part of the study, more than 1 out of 4 workers have considered quitting because of their job's effect on their mental health. Among the biggest wants for workers is more than 3/4 of them said they agreed it would be helpful to receive training on things like mental health conditions, identifying and responding to a mental health crisis at work, and stress or burnout management. Kevin, I know you've got some information about keeping the roadways safe. Tell us about that.
Yes, absolutely. Now, delving into the latest installment from NATE, which is the Communications Infrastructure Contractors Association, and we've covered a lot of their videos. They're pretty regular about putting those out under their Climber Connection series, and it's promoting safe work practices for communication tower workers. It was interesting just to see that delve into the roadway and more specifically the safety when you're operating vehicles on job sites. Certainly that's part of that work, but I think maybe people associate, and certainly a lot of these videos have delved into climbing techniques and watching out for birds and just various other things associated with working at height. But this one had a lot of good practical tips and guidance for when there is driving going on those job sites. And those are things such as avoiding distracted driving, which we know is a universal application for everyone. Also using a spotter when you're backing vehicles, reducing your speed and work zones and things of that sort. Interestingly, there was an additional topic that again really applies to everyone and seemed to be especially interesting, and that was to always maintain a safe following distance, but consider adding time if you're traveling behind a driver with license plates from out of state, because that might suggest that they're unfamiliar with the area. And just in reporting on it and reading on it, it seems kind of elementary, but still kind of being in that mind frame sometimes of when you're out on the interstate on a summer road trip and looking for different license plates, you maybe don't consider that, hey, they're not as familiar with this area that you're traveling through. So that again was just an additional tip along with what was offered in the video.
Is there something you think we missed? Email us at safehealth@nsc.org.
Thank you for joining us for this month's episode of On the Safe Side. We understand that your time is valuable, and we appreciate you spending some of it with us, wherever you choose to listen. You can check out our past episodes by going to safetyandhealthmagazine.com/podcasts. Within the archives, you'll find episode 52 from June 2024, which features discussions on keeping safety committees fresh and effective, as well as ways to keep workers safe in the heat. The original music for this podcast was composed by Steve Maslin. Thank you so much, Steve. As always, we thank our NSC teammates behind the scenes who help make this podcast go. And a special thank you goes out to this month's sponsor, Novara. We'll be back next month to have more safety-related discussions, talk to trusted voices from around the profession, and hopefully make you smile a little. Until then, please stay on the safe side.